Good morning, class. It's Mr. Parrish. I wanted to go over a couple of things with you. To start, today is Wednesday, October 2nd, and we have taken notes a few days on the Renaissance. So if you look in your notes, you should have what should say letter A, rebirth, letter B, Renaissance values, and then letter C, which was literature. Today we're going to go through D, E, F, G, and H. And I know that sounds like a lot, but these are actually really small points. So I'm making this video to go through this notes and kind of to talk you through a lot of these because they're just really kind of bulleted, and I wanted to make sure that you understood all the stuff that's on it. So letter D is about music of the Renaissance, and as you can see, there are two types of music that emerged during the Renaissance. The first is called madrigal, and you've probably never heard the word madrigal unless you're one of those students that has a lot of music classes, but madrigal is something you've probably all heard before, because madrigal is an early type of Renaissance music where it's 3 to 6 voices that are kind of harmonizing and have, little or no accompanying music. So any kind of like mixed trio or quartet or sextet, that's madrigal. The second type of music that emerges during this time is called opera. And you've all probably heard of what an opera is, but this is the type that emerges, and it goes along with performance art. So as we have this rebirth of the arts, we also have this rebirth of performance art in opera. And an opera is different than a play or a musical in that every single line in the entire production is sung. Also, operas are in Italian, and if you have been following along, you know that the Renaissance began in Italy, and so having it in Italian just kind of makes sense. Letter E is on education, and education is also something that really spreads during the Renaissance, and education during the Renaissance is formed around those 6 Renaissance values, and I'm going to focus on 2 of those. The first is well-roundedness. So people begin to study began to study different types of things and also different subjects. Before, remember, in the Middle Ages, people only studied religious things, and so as they moved into the Renaissance, they got a more well-rounded education. They began to learn about arts and sciences and history and different things that really kind of began to get interested in because of humanism. The second value that goes with education is secularism. And remember, secularism is the idea that things should be separate from church. And so people begin to get a non-church inspired education. So the church values were very evident in society, but maybe not as evident in education. Letter F is architecture. And architecture, remember our value of classicism, where people are inspired by the ruins of ancient Rome and Greece. So classicism being, this appreciation of ancient Rome and Greece, and so architecture began to reflect that. So you saw a lot of symmetry, a lot of mathematical proportions, a lot of geometrically perfect designs, things that you saw during the Renaissance kind of mirrored what we saw in ancient Rome and Greece. And then they also began to appreciate architecture because architecture during the Middle Ages was very functional. Everything that was built for a specific purpose and nothing else. So you didn't have like grand ornate buildings that weren't church related. During the Renaissance, people began to build buildings that were, grand city halls or banquet halls or things like that. Letter G is about the spread of the Renaissance. And with this one, the biggest thing that's helped spread the ideas of the Renaissance was a new invention called the printing press. And that was created by Johann Gutenberg. And the thing that the printing press really helped spread, for the most part, was the Bible. The Bible was the first thing printed on the printing press, and it was also printed in people's own vernacular eventually. Not at the beginning, but eventually it would be printed in German or Italian or French, languages that people spoke. And the Bible today is still the most printed book of all time, and it all began back in the 15th century with Gutenberg's printing press. The last thing we're going to look at today are the economic and social changes of the Renaissance, and that's letter H. And in this one, there's three things I want you to know. The first is that the powers of the kings increased. So during the Middle Ages, the kings had very little power, in the age of feudalism. During the Renaissance, a lot of that power shifted from the church to the kings. The second thing you need to know is that people began to travel with greater safety. With people moving around and becoming more mobile during the Renaissance, their safety was a big concern. And so as more people traveled, it became safer for people to travel between cities. And the last thing is new banking and money systems were established. So basically we get the era of banks. And banks become very, very important to the Renaissance because if we're moving money around, we need someplace to store that money. We need someplace to hold the money. And also credit becomes extremely important. So we know that the Medicis began their career not as art dealers, but as bankers. So those are the things I wanted you to understand there. If you want to back up the video and start copying from letter D, probably have to pause a few times. But tomorrow we're going to begin a new section. So we've done the origins, we've done the Renaissance, and tomorrow we're going to begin our third unit of study called the Reformation. In about 3 weeks, you're going to be tested over, actually about 2 weeks, you're going to be tested over the Renaissance and the Reformation. Remember, we're not going to test over that first unit. So you'll have your real first quiz here in a couple weeks over the Renaissance and the Reformation. Hope you have a great day.